So the Spanish national team have officially announced their World Cup roster by Luis Enrique, and holy moly guys, do you guys see the list here? Do you guys see Ansu Fati actually on this list? Is a miracle, because we have to remember where Ansu Fati did come from. Luis Enrique did not even call up Ansu Fati in the previous international break that we went through, and to see Ansu Fati in this World Cup roster, it is a miracle, my friends. And so this is very, very exciting, because Ansu Fati is not the only Barcelona player that we do see here within this list, and this has been very long awaited, because look, we know that the majority of the Barcelona players, they are Spanish. We know that the majority of the Spanish players, they do play for FC Barcelona, so they really do correlate with one another. So we are going to be discussing exactly what we think about this whole World Cup list for the Spanish national team, and we're going to be starting with the defense and end with the front line. But let's first talk about the defense, because look, in the previous video that we did talk about, when we were talking about Alejandro Balde and all of these other left backs, we were debating who could Luis Enrique bring within the left back position, because he can only bring two. And we're like, okay, could it be Balde's first appearance in the first team for the Spanish national team, or could we see Jordi Alba, Jose Gaya, could we see Galan? And we can see here that Luis Enrique has opted for Jose Gaya and Jordi Alba. Players like Marcos Alonso is not going to be there. Alejandro Balde is also not going to be there. And in my opinion, I don't think that there is anything wrong with what Luis Enrique has chosen when it comes to the left back position. He chose the safest route, which is okay, I understand. He chose the two players that do have the most experience playing for the international team, and I want to congratulate Jordi Alba for really coming up through this whole year, because if it wasn't for Ronald Araujo's injury, like, it's crazy how football does work sometimes, right? Because if it wasn't for his injury, we probably would have never seen Jordi Alba on this list, because Araujo's injury allowed Alejandro Balde to see more of the right back position and forced Jordi Alba to see that left back position even more, way more than expected. Because we have to remember, in the beginning of this season for FC Barcelona under Xavi Hernandez, we barely even saw Jordi Alba. Like, they were so non-existent alongside with Gerard Piqué. But because, again, the left back position was getting depleted, Alejandro Balde had to go on the right side, Koundé was also getting injured, Jordi Alba did see the pitch a lot in the final like 10 games that we have just played, and he made the most out of those minutes. And we have to respect that. When players get the minutes and they make the most out of it, you just have to respect it, no matter where they do come from. Jordi Alba has really been very efficient for FC Barcelona, which is the reason why Luis Enrique has called up this player, because he is currently on form and in better form than ever before. Now again, like I did say, it's very unfortunate to see that Alejandro Balde did not get called up. We thought for a second that he would probably get into the team, but in the end, Luis Enrique did decide not to call up this player. I have always explained and always stressed that Balde is very different to the other left backs, which could help his case on featuring within that World Cup. But his time will come, right? After this World Cup is over, the Spanish national team is going to be seeing a lot of friendlies. We're also going to go into the Euros in 2024, which will be held in Germany, and that can be a time where Alejandro Balde could greatly feature. And I think that by that time, Balde will be a starter for this Spain team. And so what's going to happen within these next 4 weeks, now knowing that players like Alejandro Balde, Pablo Torre are not going to be going to the World Cup to Qatar? It does say here, according to Alberto Rogue, that Pablo Torre, Alejandro Balde, and Arnau Tenas have been called up by the Spanish national team, but for under 21, alongside former Barcelona B captain Arnau Gomas, who currently does play for FC Basel. They will face Japan next Friday, and this would also be considered as Torres' first call-up for the Spanish national team. So when it comes to those group of youth players, they will be going on their own way. They'll be playing against Japan under 21, and then after that return back to FC Barcelona and train with Xavi Hernandez. But the other players like Pedri, Gavi, Jordi Alba, Eric Garcia, and many more are going to be going to Qatar. And then we even look at Eric Garcia. This is going to be Eric Garcia's first World Cup, and I believe his first big international experience. Like, I don't even think that he did feature in that Euro 2021 Spanish team. I think he did. I don't exactly remember, but he did not really play a big part within that squad. But now going into this World Cup, for sure, Eric Garcia is going to be having a huge role within Luis Enrique's starting 11. He will be in the starting 11. He will be starting with Pau Torres or whoever is going to be right next to him. He's going to be playing a very pivotal role. And Luis Enrique has always betted on this player. Like, over the past 2 years, Eric Garcia was only getting bigger of a role. He was adding more emphasis on this player, and he continued to grow as a center back under Luis Enrique. And he is going to be the direct replacement of Sergio Ramos, a player that did not get called up into this team. We thought that Piqué was going to get called up. We thought that Ramos was going to get called up, but you can just get a sense that there is a brand new era, which is going to lead me towards the next phase of this video, and it is going to be about the midfield, because we see Busquets, we see Gavi, we see Pedri. I really do expect players like Gavi and Pedri, who are still under the age of 20 years old, to do very big things, because this is going to be the start of a new era. It's really going to give us Iniesta and Xavi vibes, like what we did see in that 2010 World Cup. Like if Spain wants something similar to what they had 10 to 11 years ago, players like Pedri and Gavi are going to have to play in, day out in this tournament and perform at a very high level, because that is what's going to give them confidence. They're going to believe that, okay, if we can perform at a high level and put out masterclasses in the world stage, then we can do this anywhere. We can do this in the Champions League. We can do this in La Liga matches. We can do this anywhere, because that is how Iniesta and Xavi Hernandez were made. Like after they did win that World Cup in 2010, even though they were very recognizable even before that, but after that World Cup win in 2010, they really came up and they started producing masterclasses day in, day out for Barcelona for the next 4 to 5 years. And the same thing could go on for Pedri and Gavi, but maybe even longer, because they're still only 18, 19 years old. So hopefully, right, within these next 5 years, we can see Spain enter the semifinals of this World Cup. They're destined also to face Brazil, which is going to be a very interesting match. And hopefully within these next, like I have said, 5 years, they can actually win the Euros, with Pedri and Gavi being the face of that success. And I'm very excited what they could do within this upcoming World Cup. I hope that by that time, they cement themselves as the top 5 best players in the world. I think that many Barcelona fans are going to want to see that. Now, one very interesting call-up that many of us did not actually expect was to see Sergio Busquets in this list. And this is going to be the biggest conversation that we are going to be having in this video, because Barcelona, right? Barcelona and these Barcelona fans have been the biggest critics when it comes to Busquets. But Luis Enrique has taken the opposite approach when it comes to Busquets' role in this Spain team. And this is what he did say on Busquets. My goal is to convince that Busquets can play another World Cup. I'm not joking. I don't see a better pivot in the world than Busquets for our specific system. And that's basically Luis Enrique saying, yes, I think that when it comes to what we need to play within this team, Busquets is a better solution compared to a player like Rodri. And now he's not saying that Rodri is a bad player. He just believes Busquets is the best in the world when it comes to performing under his system. And you and me know how pivotal Rodri has been for Manchester City's system. Rodri is a tremendous and great player. He's more activated on the pitch. He moves a lot faster. He distributes the ball much faster. Rodri is faster in every aspect of the game compared to Sergio Busquets. And so this is a huge statement to know exactly just how important Busquets is currently for both FC Barcelona and the Spanish national team. And I was really trying to understand why Luis Enrique believes he is the best pivot under the Spanish system. And I was looking at the stats, right? And so this is exactly what I did found, and maybe this is exactly why Luis Enrique is really opting for Sergio Busquets to be having great success in this upcoming World Cup. If we look at the stats here and we compare Rodri and Busquets, we can see that they're very, very similar. The stats are almost very even. When it comes to the accurate passes, Rodri and Busquets are the exact same thing. When it comes to the recoveries per 90, again, Busquets and Rodri have the exact same number. When it comes to the opponent half recoveries per 90, again, it's the exact same thing between Busquets and Rodri. And even when it comes to the own half losses per 90, again, is the exact same number. This is so interesting. But if we look at the defensive duels per 90 and the percentage of the duels won, this is where Busquets does have the upper hand. And I believe this is why Luis Enrique does say, yes, Busquets is the best in the world in the pivot position when he is playing under our system. Busquets destroys Rodri when it comes to the defensive duels per 90 with a total of 6.45. And he does win 71% of the time when he does make those defensive duels. And then we even look at the key passes, right? You can see that, again, Rodri and Busquets are very even when it comes to key passes per 90. Even when it comes to the passes to final third per 90, it is the exact same thing. So they're very on par. It's just that Busquets has the upper hand when it comes to the overall defensive duels in the middle of the pitch. That's very important for Luis Enrique, because he wants to be able to have a player that can steal the ball away from the opposition and lend it towards players like Pedri and Gavi very quick. And you and me know about that because we see this every weekend for FC Barcelona. And Luis Enrique has also been doing a lot of testing, because if you look at the last 9 to 10 games, he has been really rotating Busquets and Rodri. One game he was starting Busquets, the other game he was starting Rodri. So hopefully throughout this tournament, like, yes, we want to see our Barcelona midfield in the World Cup, which is Busquets, Pedri, and Gavi, but hopefully we get to see more of Rodri, Pedri, and Gavi. And I say this because I want to have an idea to know exactly what that midfield could look like if it were to be at Barcelona, because I think that maybe if we see something like this, Rodri, Pedri, Gavi, and they perform perform well, right? They dominate the opposition, then Barcelona can possibly look at that and say, wait a minute, maybe there can be something that we can build here. Maybe we can bring in Rodri. You look at what they're building right there at the world stage, we can build something special at Barcelona with Rodri, Pedri, and Gavi. And so we move on towards the attack, and now let's talk about the biggest news of today regarding Ansu Fati, because yes, Ansu Fati has returned to the Spanish national team. It was very unclear for a moment whether this player was going to be going to Qatar, because Luis Enrique did not even call up this player, like I did say in the beginning of this video when we went to that international break. And Luis Enrique even said that Ansu Fati is not ready. Physically, he doesn't see him okay, like how he once was before that injury. And so it was very alarming. And I remember at that time, there were many reports stating that Ansu Fati was very sad, he was frustrated, he really wanted to get back into form. But slowly, ever since that day, we started to see Ansu Fati regaining his form. It was a slow progress, but he was making progress at the end of the day. And that is why Luis Enrique today is saying, I'm going to give this player the green light. He even said, after he did announce the roster, that he does praise Ansu Fati. And this is what he said: Ansu is on his way to becoming the old Ansu Fati before the injury. So I'm very happy for this player. We're going to see that lethal and goal scoring Ansu within the group stages, and hopefully within the quarterfinal stages, the round of 16 stages, wherever Spain do end up. And I think that it would have been a big mistake for Luis Enrique to leave Ansu Fati from this squad, because there's no other player better than Ansu within this team that has better instinct for goal. Ansu Fati is number one. And then it does say here, according to Albert Rogue, that Ansu Fati came to know about his World Cup call-up when he was training with FC Barcelona a couple of days ago. And then his family followed him to home, and there were many tears and emotions when Ansu Fati knew that he was going to Qatar. And then we look further down this list, we can also see Ferran Torres, another player featuring within the squad. He will be starting next to Ansu Fati. His movements, his runs into space is going to be very important, because Pedri and Gavi are going to need to find those players, and one of them is going to be Ferran Torres. When it comes to the most possible front three that we could see when they do make their debut against Costa Rica, most likely we'll see Ansu Fati on the left, Ferran Torres on the right wing position, and Morata as the striker. So that is it, right? That will be wrapping up today's Barcelona daily news and World Cup coverage. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.